Guys, summer is upon us, and as the weather has been heating up, I've been reaching for slides more and more often. With that, I decided to do what anybody would do, and buy all of them to try and find the most comfortable pair of slides on the planet. So today, I'm gonna share my results with you and count down the top 10 most comfortable summer slides 2024. Coming in at number 10, we got the Oofos Ooahh Slide. Not entirely sure how to say that name. This is a pair of slides that I got a ton of recommendations to try out from you guys, so of course I did. You guys have put me on to some pretty dope stuff in the past, so I did have some pretty high expectations for these. So I bought my true to size, and they feel like they fit an entire size too big. Which, to be fair to these, as we go through this list, you'll realize how inconsistent sizing is when it comes to a pair of slides from any brand. So these retail for $60, which is pretty bang on mid-range. However, they do make a lot of claims about this pair of slides on their website. Like how the foam of this pair of slides is a breakthrough in science and game changing. Turns out what I actually experienced just seemed to be a little bit more on the regular side. I will say that this foam does feel pretty soft, but there's not really that much of it. Like, it's not a super thick stack. Now, it does have a really nice shape where it feels like it almost has a rocker effect, and a lot of that foam is in the center of the slide. You do kind of roll from step to step, and that also kind of gives a lot of arch support as well. But the strap is pretty wide, and they do end up slipping off of your foot a little bit. But overall, it's a decent pair of slides, just not the best. Which brings us to number 9, the New Balance Fresh Foam MRSHN. This is another pair that's pretty massive. Again, I ordered my true size, but these fit like a whole size too big. I would definitely recommend sizing down. Overall, I would say these were great, but slightly disappointing. They retail for $60 and come in at least 3 different colors, a black, white, and a super colorful one. But these are called Fresh Foam, meaning the same stuff that's on the New Balance 1080, one of the most comfortable shoes you can buy. However, they really don't feel as soft as what you would expect an entire pair of slides made out of this foam would be. So either they're lying, or they had to add something to this fresh foam to actually make a practical slide out of it. Now, it is still relatively soft and feels pretty decent when you're wearing them, but again, just nothing like the 1080 runners. The design of these things is also a little bit strange. It really does look like nothing New Balance has ever made before. Design-wise, it does kind of feel a little bit out of place for a New Balance aesthetic. They are still a little bit slippery when you're wearing them with socks. However, the strap is relatively tight, so they do stay on your foot a lot better. Overall, they're pretty great when you do get the sizing right. Coming in at number 8, we've got the Merrell Hydro Mule. Price bumps up to $90 on these things, but you do get some added benefits for that price tag. Even though these technically are considered mules, and I was pretty careful trying not to muddy the waters bringing mules into a slide list. For all intents and purposes, these do act a lot more like a pair of slides than they do a pair of mules. They're super lightweight and breathable. They stay on your feet pretty well, and they're also pretty solid with sizing. I went with true to size, and that's exactly how they fit. The EVA foam that they use is pretty nice and soft underfoot. However, I did think that the sticky rubber outsole, as they called it, was a bit of cap, because this was the only pair that I felt slipping around on my tiles. On most surfaces, these do feel fine. However, when you actually flip these things over and feel that sticky rubber outsole, it feels a lot more just like the rest of the shoe, the EVA foam. In terms of the design, I personally really like the look of these things. It's very intricate with all of these circles and different shapes on the upper. And overall, I think these are a great option, especially if you're someone who likes to, you know, keep the toes covered. Coming in at number 7, we got the Jordan Foam Runners. Okay, they're not called foam runners, they're actually called the Jordan Roam Slide, but they do have a lot of resemblance to the Yeezy foam runner. Now, these actually retail for a very reasonable $60, and I guess you could say that they fall into the same category as the Merrell Mules. However, these are a lot more breathable, and they actually have rubber on the bottom. They're also very comfortable. With the foam that they added to these things, it ends up being super soft and squishy. I mean, I was honestly pretty surprised when I tried them on. I just didn't expect something like this from Jordan brand. But at the same time, I do think they're a little bit hard to take seriously, even if you disregard the fact that they do kind of resemble a pair of Yeezy foam runners. The design of these things look very different to the rest of the Jordan brand lineup. Yet they have tried so hard to tell you how much Jordan heritage is in these things. They added elephant print to the footbed of these. They said that the design is inspired by bikes from Jordan Motorsports. They even added these 2 rectangle shapes on the front to be inspired by Jordan Trunners. It's okay, Jordan brand. Not everything has to tie back into your heritage. You can do something different. In any case, as far as sizing and practicality, I honestly think that they've nailed it. They're comfortable. I just think that the only hang up people are going to have on these things is the design, but overall a solid pair. Taking number 6 spot, we got the Crocs Ecco Slide. So these retail for $50 and come in a bunch of different colorways. They're based off of the clogs, which were really great, and they share a lot of those qualities as well. Now, sizing, like all Crocs, is massive. I had to go a full size down to find the right fit. So yeah, I recommend you do the same. The design of these things is actually really interesting because unlike traditional foam slides where it's just one piece, these actually have a separate insole that is removable. So what this allows them to do is make the outside kind of a shell that's a lot harder and more durable, and then the footbed to be a lot more of a softer foam, allowing them to be more comfortable. Along with that soft insole, it also has these little dots all over the footbed, which is actually quite nice to walk around in. I also think that they look really good. Like, this design is just very cool. Oh yeah, and you can still add gibbets to these things, so anybody who's interested in throwing on some customization in that aspect, you still got it with these. Coming in at number 5, we've got another pair of Crocs. This time it's the Mellow Slide. These also retail for $50, and again, it's a pair of Crocs, so they are massive. I had to full size down once again. They come in a ton of different colors to choose from, but most importantly, these are very, very soft. Like, they live up to that mellow name, as in marshmallow. So yeah, definitely one of the softer pairs on today's list, but they're also super lightweight as well, which is great. And they do have those little dots that we had on the Ecco Slide, so yeah, it's also a nice little thing to be walking around on. The only issue I have with this pair of slides is that they don't really stay on your feet all that well. They're pretty slippery, and the band doesn't, or the strap doesn't seem to be tight enough. So I do think that these could have benefited from a tighter strap, or maybe something that was just a little bit bigger. But hey, maybe if you're just wearing them around the house or not doing too much walking, that wouldn't even be an issue for you. I like the way that they look, minimal, clean, and they also have windows on the side, so you have some added breathability. Overall, I really enjoyed these. Coming in at number 4, we have a slightly controversial pair. It's the Nike Calm Slide. These retail at $50 and fit slightly narrow, however true to size. And the reason I say slightly controversial is when they first launched these things, everybody said that they were just copying Yeezy. I mean, it probably doesn't help that they chose very similar colors at launch as well. But regardless of that, there is a lot of things that they've added to this pair of slides that does make it pretty practically compelling. Now, it isn't the softest foam, however, it's decent enough and definitely feels comfortable. They're also slightly heavier than you would typically expect from a pair of slides. I think it's the combination of a slightly heavier foam and then also the fact that they added an entire outsole to it. It also feels kind of counterintuitive that they did add this rubber outsole, because unlike all of the other foam slides where it's just one piece of foam, these have another fail point of adding this glued on outsole. Either way, on foot, these are decently comfortable, and because they added a larger strap, as in longer, they stay on your feet a lot better than some of the other options. You can do a decent amount of walking in these things. You're not going to feel like they're slipping off your feet. And in regards to the design, it's pretty nice. I mean, it's pretty minimal. You just get this tiny little Nike logo because Nike can't help themselves from slapping logos on damn near everything. Another cool thing about these is that they have a ton of colors to choose from. So many, in fact, that they started mixing them together, so you can get some of those mixture versions. Right, before we jump to the top 3, I got a couple honorable mentions which I wanted to include. First one is the Crocs Mellow Luxe or Premium. So these are pretty much exactly the same as the Crocs Mellow Slide, except now you have an adjustable strap. Like, they literally open up. These retail for $65, so you're paying an extra 15 bucks for that strap, but it does kind of solve the problem that the original Mellow Slides had with the wider strap, so they don't fall off your feet as much. Another honorable mention would be the Jordan Post Slide. These are actually great value for money at only $30. They've got a nice shape to them, so they do fit really well on foot. That is, if you get the right size, because I ordered these in my true size and they're pretty big, so I would also recommend sizing down on them. Final one is the Slay Benberry Crocs Slide. This one ultimately is pretty disappointing. I wanted to like these things so much, but it just kind of feels like Crocs saw the hype that the clog shoe had, and they were like, how can we kind of capitalize and make a little bit more money off of this? Let's release a pair of slides. But in doing that, they kind of forgot to make a good pair of slides. Now, don't get me wrong, they're not terrible. They still work like a regular pair of slides, but that's it. They are very regular. They retail at $70. They're pretty firm on foot. Like, there's not much cushion at all. Oh yeah, and sizing is even crazier for a pair of Crocs. This time I had to go 2 sizes down, and the strap is still pretty tight, so maybe I could have gone up. You're definitely gonna have to size down at the very least with these things. I like the design of these things. They look super cool with that fingerprint grooves all moving around the upper and the lower, but what you're gonna sacrifice for those looks is a bit of practicality. All right, let's get into this top 3, starting starting with the Adidas Adilette 22. These are also controversial, probably more than the Nike Calm Slide. It's another pair that caught heat for being a copycat of a pair of Yeezys. But this time, the person claiming that they were a copy was Ye himself. Nevertheless, we're not getting into all of that. We're strictly just talking about the practicality of these things. And they are very good slides. They come in a ridiculous amount of color options. They also have the mixture effects as well. They retail for $60 and fit true to size. They're made of a one-piece foam EVA with this really cool topographic map design all over the upper, the footbed, and even underneath. They're decently soft and squishy, not the most, but just kind of in the middle. They stay on your foot really nicely and don't slide off. And overall, it's a compelling pair that you can actually find for a cheaper price than the retail on sale very often, so a great option. Coming in at number 2, we got the Hoka Aura Recovery Slide 3. Now, these are bangers. They retail at $60 and come again in a ton of colors. They fit true to size, and they have a decent stack of foam under there, so they're pretty damn comfortable. Also, the way that they're shaped, they kind of have a rocker effect to them, which is actually really nice when you're walking around. The footbed is really nice and recessed into the actual structure of this slide, so it kind of feels like they're hugging your feet. So there is a little bit of slippage when you're wearing these things with socks, but it's definitely not as bad as some of the other ones on this list. Now, I personally really like the look of these things. I think that they kind of look like a pair of sneakers, at least the midsole, and then they just have a strap on top. So yeah, they're dope. 100% one of the best slides that you can get right now. But coming in at number 1, to probably nobody's surprise, the Yeezy Slide. Look guys, I wanted to find something that was better than these things, but after looking and trying for years, I still haven't found anything that compares to these things. It's not even actually really that close. We'll say that if Adidas didn't just drop a bunch of these things earlier this year and announce that they were going to be dropping a lot more in the next coming weeks, these might not be on the list just because they probably wouldn't be accessible, but you can pick up a pair on the aftermarket for a pretty decent price. And of course, over the next week, you should have an option to get them for retail again as well. If you're interested in finding out when Yeezys are going to drop, just click the video in the corner. I go through all of it. Bottom line is, these are insanely comfortable. The foam is literally unlike anything I've ever felt on any other shoe. It's incredibly soft and kind of bouncy. The combination of the foam and the tooth outsole kind of gives it an extra squish to it. They mold to your feet and literally get more comfortable the longer you wear them. They are a little bit weird to get the sizing right because literally it seems like colorway to colorway the sizing changes. I personally go true to size. I've seen a lot of other people say that they go a size up, so anything in between there should be fine. These are by far the best and most comfortable slides that you can possibly get. The only thing that would potentially stop people from buying them is if they just don't like Yeezy or if they just don't like the look of them. If you haven't tried a pair out yet, I highly recommend it. I've had mine for like 4 years ever since they released, and I've actually still wearing that same pair, so they're super durable as well. But I would love to know what you think of today's list. Let me know down in the comment section. If you do want to check out that video where we go over the entire Yeezy Day 2024 calendar, click that video right over there.